Okay, so the cross-examination was by Mr. Steele. So let me actually see what voice I use for Mr. Steele. By March 5th, 2016, you were employed with this company for approximately 8-9 years. Is that fair to say? Yes. So Steele is the defense. So Steele is the defense, and then Flores is, the witness on the stand, the security. Okay, so let's go ahead and start from there. By March 5th, 2016, you were employed with this company for approximately 8-9 years. Is that fair to say? Yes. And you've written incident reports before. Is that true? Yes. And in the incident report, you told the ladies and gentlemen of the jury is the who, why, where, when, what in the incident report. Basically, every detail. Is that fair to say? Yes. And the reason that you do every detail is because, or significant detail is because it's important, because later other people who did not witness what you witnessed may want to review your notes. That fair to say? Yeah, the hotel staff, yes. It also helps you memorialize for your memory what was significant during that time, true? It also helps you to memorialize for your memory what was significant during that time, true? Yeah. So we don't have to rely on your memory. It's now 2025, so we're approximately 9 years after March 5th, 2016, right? Yes. So that incident report that is marked and admitted into evidence that the jury saw, that is a good rendition by you, best of your ability at that time. Fair to say? I remember everything in detail, yes. And that is why you make it promptly. You made it during or right after your shift that day, right? Yes. That's why you send it to all these other people so you can get feedback if anything is missing, like you did in this case, true? Yes. You get to review it, right? You read it over before you send it out, the email? Yes. And this is something that is not unique. It's part of your training, your experience, and what you do in that position. Yes. Now, I would like to ask you a couple of things about that report. That incident report that you did, just you explain, if you don't mind. You mentioned that when you get off the elevator, the first time you get off the elevator, approximately 11:14, 11:15 a.m. Pacific time that day, okay? You described Mr. Combs as having a devilish, scary look in his face. Do you remember saying that to the jury? Yes. If you need to review it, where in your report, that incident report, do you ever describe Mr. Combs like that? It's not. Is that's my opinion. So it had nothing to do with the incident. Okay, that has nothing to do with what happened that day. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, with the incident. Yeah, with the incident. That is just your opinion now? Correct. No, it was my opinion then and now. But you didn't put that in the report. Again, it was my opinion. Answer my question if you don't mind. It's not in the report, true? No. And when you get off the elevator, you have something in your hand. Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what that is? My radio. And tell us who the radio communicates with, if you don't mind, the security officers. Before you even went up to the 6th floor, the reason that you called your co-workers to come closer, come out the outside perimeter and come off the other interior of the building and come to the base, true? Yes. And you do that because you really don't know what you're getting into and you may need assistance. Is that fair to say? Yes. And they may need assistance whereby you say you even have to call outside assistance like the Los Angeles Police Department or the LAPD, true? Correct. So there in the base, you have your walkie-talkie, excuse me, your radio, and you never call for assistance, right? No. Mr. Combs did not attack you? No. True? Yeah. He was cordial to you, that's my word, but you describe it any way you want. Yeah. He was cooperative, right? Yes. And when you see it, and everyone saw it on video, he's actually, when you first call him, he's sitting in a chair, fair to say? Yeah. And we see him reverse, like you said, but because it's through a mirror, so everything is transposed, true? Yeah. And he doesn't make any aggressive movements towards you, true? You don't see him making any aggressive movements towards a lady, do you? No. Now you see that the young lady Cassie has a purple eye. Do you remember telling the jurors that? Yes. Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, where in your report, if you need to see it, it's no problem. You wrote that she has any type of discoloration to her eye. I don't recall on my report. Do you need to see it? Sure. Your Honor, with the court's permission, is already in evidence over objection 7R141. If you can just scan this, take as much time as you need. If you need it blown up, just please tell the gentleman, he will do it. Point to the jurors and where you say that Cassie has a purple eye. It doesn't. I could not hear. I apologize. It doesn't. It does not. No, not on this email. Now, that would be a significant, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that, now that would be significant, wouldn't it? Yeah. Because you have to know if somebody gets injured on your property. That's important for not only you, but your co-workers to know. True? Correct. There could be civil lawsuits, right? Yeah. Law enforcement could get involved, right? Yeah. Now, in this particular case, just make it clear. Please make it clear. Was there any law enforcement involvement in this case from your knowledge? No, we didn't call them. Did anybody? And when you say we didn't call them, did anybody, to your knowledge, alert law enforcement to come out and investigate this case at that time? No, sir. You took the time to video to show your wife. Do you remember? Yeah. You explained that to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Yes. And you in fact kept that video, right? Correct. And people were talking about this even after your day off come back. Another officer said, "Hey, would you do me a favor and take your time and show me the video?" Remember looking at it and it self-erased, you thought? Yes. You then showed your other co-worker your video on your cell phone, right? Yes. And never during any of that time, to your knowledge, was law enforcement called, true? Correct. Okay, now when you talk about Mr. Combs, I think you told the ladies and gentlemen of the jury saying that Cassie wanted to leave the hotel and he said, "You're not leaving," or something to that effect. Do you remember that? Yes, sir. Okay, so with the court's permission, it's already in evidence over objection 7R141. If that can be shown to you, if you need to see it, tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury if you put that in your report. I'm sorry, what was the question? Where in your report, or if it is in your report, I'll ask first, did you ever say that Mr. Combs, that Cassie said, "I'm leaving the hotel," and Mr. Combs said something to the effect of, "You're not leaving"? I don't believe it's in the report. In fact, the opposite is in your report, isn't it? What part? Mr. Combs, it's in the second paragraph. If you need to see it, fifth line. Mr. Combs, we walked over. It's in the center of the fifth line. We walked over to his room, 602, meaning Mr. Combs' room, right? Yes. And when he, went inside, it says, and Miss Cece was told to leave by Mr. Combs. So She did just that. Do you see that? Yes. So tell. You can look at everything. Where in here did you ever write that you told the jurors today the significant fact that Mr. Combs told Cassie she could not leave that hotel? At that point, I didn't believe it was a significant fact because again, they are just going back and forth. So I'm not going to put something like he told her off. I'm not going to say that. He said to leave eventually and she left. So you wrote down what you just said that Mr. Combs told Cassie to leave. Yeah. And she left, but you didn't write that down that Mr. Combs told her she could not leave. Yeah, because it's not important that that's him just telling her don't leave and me telling him she is going to leave. And then he says you're going to leave. So of course, I don't put he told her that she needs to leave. Officer, if it's not important, we're talking about 9 years later. Correct. You remember the unimportant detail 9 years later, but it's not important enough. I remember most of the incident, sir. Let me just finish the question. All right. It's not important enough to write in the report that you're sworn to do at that time to put in all of the important information, yet you remember to this day that's what you're telling the jury. Objection from Ms. Slavic. Court is overruled. I wasn't sworn to do it. It's observe and report, sir. So whatever, as a security guard, whatever I put in the report, that's pretty much what it is. With regards to the bribe, do you remember telling the jurors that Mr. Combs held up a stack of money? You notice $100 bill and you're fair. You say you don't know what the other bills were, correct? They could have been dollar bills, I guess, is what you're saying, correct? But you took that as a bribe, right? What do you mean I took that as a bribe? What he was offering? Well, I was just using your word. Maybe I misheard you. Yeah. On direct examination with the prosecutor, you used the word it was a bribe. 100%. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Now before I going on, that was at the room. Do you remember telling the jurors that? Outside the room, yes. That you were already leaving just to set the stage. You were walking back towards the elevator hallway or elevator lobby, correct? And you wanted to see if you could catch up to Cassie, yes. She had already left, yes. Mr. Combs was in his room, yes. No incident, right? Correct. And when Mr. Combs then says to you, I'm not saying shout, but gets your attention, holds up his hand the way you described, holding the money, whatever amount of money it is, you took that. You said it was a bribe. I want to ask you a couple of questions, okay? Yeah, go ahead. When you first saw Mr. Combs and he's still sitting in that chair when you're first off the elevator, you made it known, I guess it's obvious, but you made it known that Mr. Combs is going to have to pay for the damage. Yeah. And later you explained to Mr. Combs on the way down to the hallway, correct me if I'm wrong, that he's going to have to pay for that damage, right? Yes. And then when you get to his room, he has a stack of money and he holds it up to you, right? Correct. And you take that as a bribe? Yeah, that definitely. Okay, now with regards to Mr. Combs having money on him, when you first see him in the chair, is it fair to say, to your knowledge, he's really in a towel and socks? Is that what it looked like? Yeah, that was what he was wearing. He didn't have any access to have any money, to have money on him at the time, correct? He couldn't give you any money. We don't take money. I'm not saying you would take it. He didn't offer you any money. Let me put it that way. When he was in the chair, he didn't have access to money, right? Correct. Okay, now I want to talk to you about the gentleman who you say you saw in the bedroom or in the hotel room, okay? So you described to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury that there's a gentleman when you are walking down the hallway with Mr. Combs, Cassie's behind you. She needs her items. You said a bag, right? Yeah. Cell phone in the bag. Fair? Yes, sir. Mr. Combs enters the room. There is no way to have this on video, and that's just the way it's set up. You see the hallway, but you don't see the entrance to the room, right? Correct. And you describe it that Cassie is in the room with Mr. Combs and you wanted to observe them. That was just part of your job there, correct? And that is when you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury that there is this other third party, right? Yes. Okay, I would like you to explain why in your incident report that is not there. If there's any more explanation than what you said on direct. No, same thing. It was irrelevant. He didn't engage with nobody and he was not at the lobby as well. But again, you just remember that 9 years later. Yeah. Anybody would remember an extra person sitting in the corner of a bed not doing anything. Why? Because this is an altercation going on and then there is just someone just sitting there. That's probably something that I would remember. Did you think it would be important at the time to ask that gentleman for his name? No. Why? Because he wasn't involved in their altercation or what they were arguing about. How do you know? Because he wasn't talking to nobody. Did you ever follow up on video? Because there has to be video of that gentleman leaving the room, right? Correct. Did you ever bother to use your cell phone and record that person leaving the room? No. Did you ever talk to anybody that there was a third party in that room? No. But you remember it today? I remembered it, yes. I want to talk with you about the 7-foot gentleman. Do you remember describing that to the jury? Yes. That's pretty tall, right? Yeah. That's something to remember, right? 100%. And this is somebody who's in a car, right? Outside of a car, yes. And when you say outside of a car, describe what that means. He stepped out of the car, approached myself and Cassie, and then that's when he said that she wanted to leave. Okay, do you know who this person is? No, sir. Do you know if this person was a member of the family of Cassie or she knew him from other places? She didn't know him. How do you know that? Because the interaction that they had when I was about to leave. Just the demeanor with each other? Yes. Okay, now you see the car pull up, right? Yes. And you see Cassie didn't leave with that gentleman, true? Yeah. They were talking, and when they came back, they were gone. Yeah. I would like you to look at, again, what's been entered into evidence by this honorable court as 7R141. It's in the third paragraph. It starts with, I took the elevator down. Do you see that? Yes. And you saw Miss Cece, just for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Cece is the same person we're calling Cassie, right? Yes. All right. You advised her that you did not want him, that means Mr. Combs, to see her. So you walked over to the valet office until her ride got there, right? Correct. And you asked her that we would need some information from her to stand by. And then you walked over to my Addie's office. Do you see that? Yeah. Okay, do you ever write anything in your report at any time that there was this conversation about the 7-foot person saying she's leaving or anything like that? No. Do you write anything in there you told the ladies and gentlemen of the jury that you told Cassie, hey, you could come with me and nobody will see you. We'll go to another office and no one will see the law enforcement? No. That's not in here either, is it? No, sir. But you remember all that today, 100%. Isn't it important to tell your coworkers and for your memory that you offer to call law enforcement and the guest refused? I guess it goes either way, because if she refused, I mean, that's where it ends. I don't have to tell anybody. Obviously, I'm the supervisor. I'm the assistant director right now. So if I'm the one that is doing it, then I don't need to tell my guys that's what I did. If they did it, then they would have to tell me, hey sir, this is what we did. We offered this. They said no. But you're second in command by that time, correct? You're not in command? Nope. Second of all, isn't it important to show that you, as a representative of the hotel, offered to have the patron who you say had a purple eye? You're encouraging the police to come. You're encouraging the person to call the police. You're encouraging the person to wait with you. Wouldn't that all be important to put into your incident report? No, because I already had talked to Addie when I went to go get him. I told him exactly what had happened, so I was in conversation with all of them. I didn't need to write it in the email. Like I said, that email just states what happened, and I don't need what you're saying is I need to add extra pieces to this email that have nothing to do with what happened. So if I made a left turn, I'm not going to write, I made a left turn, sir. You compare somebody with a purple eye who refused police to somebody making a left turn. No, what you're saying is that I needed to put that in there, even though I had already spoken to the hotel manager. All right. Did you describe for the jury that when Mr. Combs thought that Addie was recording him? Do you remember that? Yes, sir. Situation. Did you say that you put Mr. Combs against the wall? Yes. That's a pretty aggressive move. Wouldn't you say that? Yeah. I mean, you could hurt somebody when you put them up against the wall. It depends, yeah, because I wasn't aggressive. I just placed him. I put my hand on him and told him to let go of the phone. Where did you put your hand? On his chest? On his chest. Neck area? Chest. And you shoved him back into the wall? Yeah. And you did it with your forearm. That is what you just did, correct? For the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, yes, sir. And put your weight behind it so you know just my forearm. Is that the part of the body that you touched to Mr. Combs? You pushed him against the wall? His chest level, his chest area. And 7R141 in the third paragraph, the 8th line, actually the 7th line to the left of center. Do you see where you wrote he, meaning Mr. Combs, saw Maud Addy holding his phone, and he, meaning Mr. Combs, automatically assumed he, meaning Mr. Maud Addy, he, meaning Mr. Combs, was being recorded. So he, meaning Mr. Combs, grabbed Maud Addy's phone, and then I grabbed his hand and told him to back off as we took his hand away from Maud Addy. Correct? But today you remember it as you put your forearm into his chest. Yeah, I put my forearm in his chest, and his hand was there because he was pulling on Addie's hand, trying to take it away. So if you're pulling right, your hand is there. I put my hand here, and I'm grabbing his hand, so yes. But that's not what you wrote in the report. But I put that I grabbed his hand, yes. But you didn't put that. You put him against the wall. Again, what you want me to do is add stuff that like it's already in the report saying that I grabbed his hand. I don't really want you to do anything, okay? I'm just asking if it's in the report. It's not, sir. What you told the jury? No, sir. It's not there, right? No. Now, in the video, if you need to see it, we're going to show it again, okay? Yes, sir. There are pictures of a broken vase when you first come out the elevator bank. I'm going backwards, by the way. Yes, sir. I'm not trying to confuse you. It's fine. It's 11:15 a.m. We're doing the whole thing again. Your first comment to the 6th floor. Yes, sir. You notice because you're observant. Yes, sir. You notice that there are flowers on the ground. Yes, sir. And you notice that there's a broken vase on the floor. True. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that is when Mr. Combs again is sitting in the towel in his socks, right? Yes, sir. And Cassie is over in the corner. True. Yes, sir. And the flowers are closer to where Cassie is. True. Yes, sir. And the vase is closer to where Mr. Combs is. True. Correct. And in fact, we see it on the video. And it's just I suppose because in the mirror, but we see that Mr. Combs is grabbing the flowers, tosses the flowers, but the vase goes down by his feet and breaks. Correct. True. Just want to be clear. You're not telling the jurors that Mr. Combs threw the vase, are you? No, sir. Okay. Counsel confers. I'm asking you to go back 9 years. If you can't remember, say you can't remember. Roger. Can you describe that room? Well, different types of rooms in the Intercontinental Hotel. It was a corner room. That's what you're talking about, his room. I'm going back, obviously, to the date at issue March 5th, 2016. Do you remember the layout of that room? If yes, can you describe it to the jury? If you can't, just say you can't remember. No, I don't remember. It was just a corner room. The corner rooms have significance by that. I mean, they are better views, bigger. Some of them do, yeah, depending on the floor. How about the sixth floor? No, not really. How many like rooms is it like a typical hotel that I would stay in? You just walk in and it's all right there as one room, or are there bedrooms and living rooms, bathrooms? Do you remember? Yeah, some of them have like a living room. Some of them have just a room. You open the door and the bed is right there. Were you aware that this room has a living room and it is not when you first walk in, it's a living room? Have you seen those rooms before? Yeah. And then you go in further and there is a door and it actually leads to a bedroom. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Yeah. Were you aware that this room was like that? No, sir. Now you mentioned that when you see this supposed third party, the gentleman sitting in the room. Yes, sir. Do you know what I'm talking about, right? Yes, sir. You have him on a bed, right? Correct. Now you didn't go in that room further than the living room, did you? No, sir. How did you see into the bedroom? So if they have a living room, those couches have a pull out. It becomes a pull out bed. That's what you're saying? This was a pull out bed? Yeah. Did you realize that this was a presidential suite in that hotel? Presidential suite on the sixth floor on the corner? I don't think so. You don't think so? No. Your Honor, may I have one moment? The court, you may. Now, you've been in a hotel, working with the hotel. You're in hospitality. I know you're in the security business, but it's also the hospitality business, fair to say? Yes, sir. I mean, you have potentially presidents, dignitaries. They stay there, yes. I mean, heads of industry come to the hotel, right? Yes, sir. And there are people who are well known who come to that hotel. Yes, sir. While you were working there, I'm talking about, yes, sir. And you sometimes recognize people who come there just from their fame, true? Yeah. And that's what happened here when you got off that elevator. You recognized Mr. Combs, true, correct? And you knew him from his fame. You wrote that. Public figure, yes, sir. And he's a public figure, true, true, yes, sir. And it was clear to you that he wanted to pay for the damage, right? Miss Slavic. Objection, Your Honor. It calls for speculation and mischaracterizes previous testimony. The court. All right, Mr. Steele, why don't you rephrase the question? Okay. It can be embarrassing if you know to a public figure to have that video released, true. Objection, Ms. Slavic says. Sustained. Your Honor, may I have 1 second? You may. Counsel confers. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. All right, redirect. Very briefly, Your Honor. Redirecting the examination from Ms. Slavic. Officer Flores, you were asked on cross-examination about details and incident reports. Do you remember that? Yes, ma'am. Can you just remind the jury of what an incident report is? It's just pretty much just explaining what happened, what we saw, what we observed. Pretty much, like I said, the 5 W's. And were you expected to include every single detail? No. In an incident report? No, ma'am. And did you typically include every single detail? No, ma'am. Now, you were asked several questions about Mr. Combs' demeanor when you responded to the incident. Yes. Do you remember that? Yes, ma'am. Did Mr. Combs seem in control of his faculties? As in, I'm sorry. Did Mr. Combs seem drunk? No, ma'am. Did he seem high? No, ma'am. Can you remind the jury what Mr. Combs said to you when he tried to hand you a stack of cash? Pretty much saying that he doesn't want anybody to know, telling me to take care of it. I just don't want people to find out, pretty much. Now, you were also asked several questions on cross-examination about Mr. Combs telling Miss Cassie, that she could not leave. Do you remember those questions? Yes, ma'am. Now, you remember seeing the video that we played for you on direct? examination. Yes, ma'am. Actually, Miss Gavin, could you play the video at TNC 103 starting at 31 seconds and going to 56 seconds? Keep playing to 56 seconds, please. Officer Flores, towards the end of that snippet, did you see Mr. Combs dragging Cassie? Yes, ma'am. What direction was he dragging her in? To the room. Nothing further. The court. All right, anything further, Mr. Steele? Mr. Steele, I left something out. May I just ask a question, Your Honor? The court, yes. Not on redirect, thank you. Cross-examination by Mr. Steele. Sir, on the videos from the surveillance, they are motion sensor videos. Is that true? Yeah. And that means that they will not record unless there is some sort of movement. That is how it's set up. Is that true? For the most part, yes. So sometimes we see gaps of time. Yes. And that's because either there is a glitch, there is something wrong with the system, right? Yeah. Or there is no movement or significant movement to make the system capture an image. Is that true? Correct. All right. So there is several minutes of no motion. That would explain the time difference, right? Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting me do that, Your Honor. The court. Ms. Lavitt, did you have anything further to response to that? No, Your Honor. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Officer Flores. Sure. Witness excused. The court. The government may call this next witness. Ms. Comey. The government calls Daniel Phillips, the deputy clerk. Remain standing and please raise your right hand. The witness, sure. So Daniel Phillips, called as a witness by the government, having been duly sworn, testified as follows. The deputy clerk, thank you. You may be seated. The court. All right, Ms. Comey, you may proceed. Ms. Comey. Thank you, Your Honor. Direct examination by Ms. Comey for Phillips. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Would you please state and spell your name for the record? Daniel Phillips. How old are you? I am 41. How far did you go in school? I did some college. I would like to direct your attention to the period around approximately 2012 and 2013. During that time, what were you doing for work? I was managing a male review show. What is a male review show? Male strippers for women. And what city? New York. From where else did you receive money in approximately 2012? From Cassie Ventura, Cassandra Ventura. Can we please pull up what is in evidence as Government Exhibit 28401? Mr. Phillips, do you recognize the person in that photograph? Yes. Who is that? That is Cassandra Ventura or Cassie. What did Cassie Ventura give you money for in or around 2012? To have sex with her. Who else was present when you had sex with Miss Ventura in exchange for money? Sean Combs. Can we now please pull up what's in the evidence as Government Exhibit 28101? Do you recognize the person in that photograph? Yes. Who is that? Sean Combs. We can take that down. Thank you, Ms. Gavin. About when did you first meet Miss Ventura? I'm estimating probably 2012 or 13. Through whom did you first meet Miss Ventura? Through my boss. What did your boss tell you? He contacted me one evening and told me that he could not find any of our black dancers, which was what was requested. So he asked me if I would mind going down to the field in order to have a dancer to go down to the Gramercy for a bachelorette party. How did you respond? I told him I would do it. To what location did your boss send you? To the Gramercy Park Hotel. Where is that hotel located? in Gramercy Park, downtown Manhattan. What were you expecting to do at the Mercy Park Hotel? I was expecting to go do a little striptease, and that was it, just for a bachelorette party, a group of women, and then leave. At what time of day did you arrive at the Mercy Park Hotel? Probably sometime after midnight. So nighttime? Nighttime. What happened when you arrived at the Mercy Park Hotel? When I arrived, Cassie opened the door and she asked me if I was okay, if it was just going to be us, because I was expecting to see a group of women there, but there was only her standing at the door, and she asked me to come into the room. We were standing in like a foyer, and she basically said it was her birthday and that her husband wanted to do something special for her. And so she asked me if I would mind rubbing baby oil on her and giving her massage. And wherever things went from there, if based on how comfortable I was. Let me ask you some follow-up questions. Sure. Did you know her name at that moment? No. Did you later learn her name? Yes. And what did you later learn her name was? Cassandra Ventura. And what did you call her during your later interactions? See, when she first opened the door and invited you just inside the door, what was Miss Ventura wearing? Lingerie, like a red lace outfit with high heels, a red wig, and some sunglasses, dark sunglasses. And after Miss Ventura told you about her husband being there and baby oil, what, if anything, did she give you when you were in that entryway of the hotel room? She asked me if I objection. The court rephrased the question. After telling you what she wanted that evening, what did Miss Ventura say next? She told me that, first off, that I didn't have to worry about anything because her husband was not gay. I remember her saying that to me, and he was not going to try to touch me or anything. And I told her that's good because I was not with that. And then she told me that she knew that my boss told her that she objection from Mr. Donaldson is calling. Your Honor, it's not offered for the truth, just to provide context for the statement coming next. The court, that's overruled. The witness, continue. You may continue. Okay, she told me that she knew that my boss had told her that she had to give me $20 upon arrival, and at that point she gave me a few $1,000s and said that at the end she would tip me when I'm leaving, before I'm leaving. After she handed you cash, what part of the hotel room did you go into with Miss Ventura? We went into the main living room area. What kind of hotel was this room? I believe it was a suite. What did the living room area look like when you walked into it that night? It had like velvet couches straight ahead, and it opened up into a big living room, and there was a table in front of the couch, and there were candles that were lit all over the table. Yeah, and then the rest of the room was dark. What else, if anything, did you see on the table? There were bottles of baby oil and a Scrungolite, which is a lubricant. Astroglide. There was bottles of baby oil and Astroglide, which is a lubricant. Who else did you see in the living room when you walked into it? There was a man sitting on the right side of the room if I was facing him to the back of the room. What was the man wearing? A white robe with a bandana over his face and like a baseball cap on his head. What part of this man's face was the bandana covering? His nose down. So you were able to see his face clearly? No. How, if at all, did Miss Ventura refer to the man in the room as babe? Did you later learn who that man was? I did. What did you learn about that? Well, if you're asking when did I realize who he was? Sure. As soon as he spoke to me. So when he spoke to you, whose voice did you recognize? That was Sean Combs. Had you heard Sean Combs' voice before? Yes. And what context? In every form I've ever seen him in entertainment. Did you later see his face uncovered at a later date? I did, yes. Now, that first night, what did you and Mr. Combs say to each other? Not much. I complimented the room, the hotel that we were in. I asked him what he did for a living, and he told me that he was in importing and exporting. That was the conversation we had. And then as I was getting ready to leave the hotel, he spoke to me again and told me that I guess he had some trouble with my boss. Objection by Miss Comey. Mr. Phillips, we'll talk about that conversation later. Okay. Let's focus now on when you first entered the room and when you first started interacting with Mr. Combs. After you had that brief conversation with him, what did you and Miss Ventura do? We ended up having sex. Before you and Miss Ventura had intercourse, what, if anything, did you rub on each other? Baby. My bad. Y'all switching between these voices. Baby oil. For about how long did that last? A couple minutes. And then what happened? And then I ended up having sex with her. What was Mr. Combs doing while you and Miss Ventura rubbed baby oil on each other? He was sitting in the corner masturbating, watching us. What was he doing while you and Miss Ventura were having sex? He was sitting in the corner masturbating. About how long did the sex with Miss Ventura last that first time? Not long at all. And how did that sexual encounter end? With me ejaculating. What, if any, protection were you wearing? I wasn't at that time. After you finished having sex with Miss Ventura, but before you left that hotel room, what, if anything, did she or Mr. Combs give you? Cassie gave me more money. I think it was a couple $1,000s more. Before you left the hotel room, after that first encounter, what do you remember Mr. Combs saying to you? He said that he had some issues with my boss at the time and said that, objection, Your Honor, it's an opposing party statement. The court. Grounds for the objection? Hearsay, Judge. I didn't get that. It's the statement of the defendant, the court. First of all, I didn't hear you. Mr. Donald said, I'm sorry, Judge, hearsay, the court. Okay, that's overruled. Can you repeat for us what Mr. Combs said? He said he was having some issues with my boss at the time. I guess my boss was being a bit aggressive, and he asked me if I would like to see them again, continue seeing them. And let me ask you, how did you respond to that? I said, sure. And he told Cassie to take my phone number, and she took my phone number, and that was that. After you gave them your phone number, where did you go? I left the hotel. I was getting ready to go home. And about how long after you left the hotel did you hear from them again? A few minutes after. What happened? Cassie asked me if I would mind sending her a picture of my penis. How did she contact you? Via my cell phone. How did you respond? I gave her a picture of my penis. What was the next communication you had with her? She asked me if I could come back upstairs and see her again. How did you respond? I went back upstairs to see her again. So where did you go back to? The same hotel room that we were in. And who was in the hotel room when you returned to it? The same two people, Cassie Ventura and Sean Combs. About how long were you in that hotel room the second time? A few hours. What do you remember happening over those few hours? The same thing. It was literally the same exact scene, but basically. We rubbed baby oil on each other. We had sex again for longer this time, and then I was done. I do not recollect whether or not they gave me anything after that money-wise. What was Mr. Combs doing while you were having this sexual encounter with Miss Ventura? He was masturbating in the corner. And what, if anything, do you remember him saying during this second sexual encounter? At what point while we were Yes. I don't know if I remember him saying anything. At the end of that sexual encounter with Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs, at that point when you left, did you know who Miss Ventura was? Yes. You're saying you're saying when I left the hotel the second time? Yes. No. When did you learn who she was? My boss looked her up and told me who she was. Approximately how many more times did you have sex with Miss Ventura in front of Mr. Combs for money? Well, I had sex with Cassie a few times after that. Did you ever meet Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs in person for any reason other than to have sex with Miss Ventura in front of Mr. Combs? Objection, form of the question. The court, you can rephrase the question. Every time you met with Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs, what was the purpose of the meeting? To have sex with Cassie. In front of who? In front of Mr. Combs. Approximately when was the last time you met in person with Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs? I'm estimating, but probably the end of 2013, early 2014. And what city did all of these meetings take place? New York. In what borough? Manhattan. At what locations do you remember having these encounters with Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs? I'm sorry, can you repeat that? At what locations do you remember meeting? Oh, with Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs? The Grand Marcy Park Hotel, the Jumeirah, Essex House, Intercontinental, his personal residence on 56, her personal residence on West End Avenue, and there may be more I'm not remembering. You say his personal residence? Who were you referring to? Mr. Combs, Sean Combs. And you said her personal residence. Who were you referring to? Cassie's residence. And where was that? Cassie lived on West End Avenue, I think number 10 West End Avenue, and then Sean Combs, I believe he lived at 210 West 56 at that time. When you met them at hotels, and what kind of rooms did you generally meet them in? Suites? Is that what you're asking me? Yes. Yes. Okay. What, if any, name did Miss Ventura tell you to give hotel management if you were asked who you were there to see? Black. For each of these locations, how did you learn that they wanted to meet you there? Cassie either called me or text me. How much notice did you generally receive between when Cassie would contact you and when you were supposed to arrive for a meeting? It could be anywhere between an hour to a couple of days. Did you yourself reach out affirmatively to Cassie via text? Yeah. Why was that? At some point after some things happened, I always wanted to know that she was good. I used to try to get her to text me to tell me that, she was good. And then when she wouldn't reply, eventually I started sending her, more vulgar text messages to see if I could get her, more interested to see me again so that I could actually see her in person and know that she was good. And when you say you sent her vulgar text messages, what do you mean? I mean, I can recall sending her at least one message telling her that I wanted to, you want me to say it? If you wouldn't mind giving an example, I want to fuck you right now. And are those the kind of vulgar text messages you would send her? Not often, but once or twice, yeah. To the best of your recollection, did Cassie ever respond to those vulgar text messages? I don't think so. During your sexual encounters with Cassie and Mr. Combs, generally, how were the rooms decorated? Sometimes sheets or like towels on the couch. The curtains were always shut fully. There was always a table in front of the couch, and there was always candles on that table, and also bottles of baby oil or Astroglide. And then there were a few occasions where they would ask me to actually go to the pharmacy and pick those things up. I guess because they did not have them at their location. Across all of these encounters, how often did you use baby oil? Every time. Other than that first time at the Grand Mercy Park Hotel, who directed you to use baby oil? Well, are you asking? Okay, I think I understand. So the first time Cassie did, and then I guess we kind of knew what to do after that. But Sean Combs would often tell us, y'all need to rub more baby oil on each other. You're not like you don't have enough on. So what types of things do you remember Mr. Combs saying to you and to Miss Ventura about baby oil during these encounters? He would just tell us to put more on. Across all of these encounters after the first one, who, if anyone, gave directions about how to engage in sexual activity? Sean Combs did. What are some of the directions you remember Mr. Combs giving to you and Miss Ventura? He would tell us things like, slow down, y'all stop now, separate from each other. It's getting too much now. It's getting too hot, y'all. One time he had us try to role play like we had just met at an airport. And yeah, we're not very good at that at all. So I think we skipped past that one really quickly. Yeah, but mainly it was more like, don't come yet, don't come. If you feel like you're going to come, don't come yet, things like that. About how often during these encounters would Mr. Combs tell you to wait to ejaculate? I mean, it was often, but I think he started really directing us from like the second time on. So the first encounter, he didn't really say much to us, but after that, he would tell us what to do after that. So again, focusing just on the second time forward. Okay. Okay. What directions about when you should ejaculate do you remember Mr. Combs giving you? I mean, yeah, he would often tell me not to come, don't come yet. And if you feel like you're going to come, stop. But it was more so where he wanted me to ejaculate. And what do you remember about him? What do you remember him saying about that? He occasionally wanted me to come on her stomach or, inside of her. And, yeah. What, if any, directions did Mr. Combs give to you and Miss Ventura about what sex acts to engage in? He really would just tell us to like rub each other and like, touch each other. And then he would tell her to, blow me, give me oral sex. Throughout these encounters, what did you observe Mr. Combs doing? He was always sitting in the corner masturbating, and then occasionally he would tell me to step off and back up because he was going to get some. And then he would start having sex with her, and I would be sitting off in the corner watching Jess. Other than oral sex and intercourse, what other acts, if any, do you remember Mr. Combs asking you to perform on Miss Ventura? I don't recall anything else. How many times, if any, were you asked to urinate on Miss Ventura? Objection. The question needs to be rephrased. What, if any, bodily fluids other than ejaculate do you remember there being in these rooms? Objection. The court just on leading grounds, Mr. Donaldson. Yes, Judge. The court, that's overruled. So Cassie was actually the one that asked me to urinate on her. They had just come out of the room and she asked me if I had ever done that before. And I said no. And she told me to do it. And apparently I was doing it wrong because they both stopped me and told me that I was supposed to let a little out at a time and not go full, like take a leak on her. But yeah, that was just one time that they asked me to do that. Objection to the characterization of they asking me to do that. I believe the testimony was that the court, no, I've got it. I've got it. All right, the jury should disregard the last sentence of the witness's last answer. Ms. Coleman, you can proceed. What was Mr. Combs doing when you urinated on Miss Ventura? He was masturbating. What, if any, conversations do you recall having with Mr. Combs about using protection? I brought up the fact that I would like to start unless she could provide me with her sexual STD history and make sure that she was good. She agreed. I agreed to do the same, and I ended up bringing her mine, but I never received hers. How often did you use condoms with Miss Ventura? By the time we had that conversation, not many. What did Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs usually do after you ejaculated on her? They would get up and go inside of wherever the bedroom was inside the hotel room. They would get up and go inside of wherever the bedroom was inside the hotel room. And generally what happened next? I would be sitting in that room for hours, just sitting there. And then what do you remember happening? Sometimes they would come out and tell me, okay, you can go. And other times they would come out and ask me if I'm ready to go again. About how long did each of these encounters with Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura usually last? Could be anywhere from an hour to 10 hours. And generally, what happened over those hours? We would have sex, and then I would be sitting there waiting for hours on the couch, just sitting there. How many times, if any, did you pretend to ejaculate but actually did not? Once. Can you tell us about that? I think this was our second go round, and he told me to make sure that I came inside of her this time, and I went to go do it, but I couldn't do it. I was in my head or whatever the problem was, but I couldn't ejaculate, and so I just pretended to do it. And they got up, they went into the room, and then Sean Combs came out of the room and he asked me, he said, "Are you sure you came?" I said, "Yeah, I'm positive." And he was like, "You sure?" And I said, "Yes." And so they went back into the room, and yeah, that was that. But yeah, they definitely knew. Objection from Mr. Donaldson. I pretended. The court. The jury should disregard the last sentence in the witness's answer. Ms. Comey. You mentioned that at some point you saw Mr. Combs' face. How did that happen? I was supposed to meet Cassie and Sean Combs down at the Dream Downtown Hotel, I believe, and Cassie called me while I was on my way down there. She told me that they were switching hotels and they were heading uptown to the Jumeirah Essex house. And she told me at that hotel I don't need to stop at the front desk and that I can just go straight upstairs. And so she told me to give them about maybe 30 minutes or something like that before I came upstairs. And so I did that. I went up in about 30 minutes and I knocked on the door. And this was the first time that Sean Combs opened the door as himself, dressed in a suit and pea coat and no mask, no hat, no anything. Just it was him. So what was covering his face when he opened the door? Nothing. How did your interactions with Mr. Combs change after you saw his face? He didn't feel, obviously. Objection from Mr. Donaldson. I guess. Without commenting on how Mr. Combs felt. Yeah. Or what he thought. Based on your own observations, how did your interactions change? He never wore a mask or hat again. Who, if anyone, recorded your sexual encounters with Ms. Ventura? Objection, leading, if any. Your Honor, is who, if any? Mr. Donaldson. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that part. My apologies, withdrawn. The court, all right. Who, if anyone, recorded your encounters with Ms. Ventura? Sean Combs. About how many times do you remember Mr. Combs recording you and Ms. Ventura during these sexual encounters? Again, I will be estimating, but once or twice. And what do you remember Mr. Combs using to record those encounters? I do believe a cell phone and a camcorder device. What, if any, form of identification do you remember Mr. Combs asking you for? He asked me for my ID, my driver's license. What do you remember about that? He took my driver's license and took a picture of it and then said to me, it's just for, insurance, just in case. What did you understand him to be telling you? That if I spoke about this to anybody, that he probably... Objection! I don't know. Objection. I felt. The court, hold on. Mr. Donaldson, objection. The court grounds. Mr. Donaldson, he's about to speculate as to what Mr. Combs intended by asking for the court. All right, Ms. Comey. Honor, he's explaining the context. The court, hold on, Ms. Comey. Why don't you ask a new question that's perhaps more focused? Based on Mr. Combs' demeanor, tone of voice, and behavior during that conversation, what did you understand he was communicating to you? Objection from Mr. Donaldson. That's overruled. I understood it to be that he was threatening me. How many times, if any, did you notice that Ms. Ventura appeared to be under the influence of drugs? Just once. What do you remember about that? I came to a hotel room and Sean Combs opened the door and I went inside the hotel room, he closed the door behind me and then said to me that, "I don't think this is going to happen today." And I looked at the couch and Cassie looked like to me, she looked like she was completely passed out on the couch, slumped over and half on the couch, half off the couch. What was she wearing? I think she was wearing lingerie. What, if any, drugs did you use during your sexual encounters with Miss Ventura? So I'll go ahead and finish because someone asked, can I do the last questions right here? I'll just finish this last page we're on. He offered me Cialis once or twice and then Molly once. And who offered you the Molly, Mr. Combs? And when you say Molly, what are you referring to? I don't do drugs, so MDMHA, I don't know what the term is, but I guess ecstasy. I don't want you to guess, Mr. Phillips. Thank you. Okay. What do you remember about the time that you were offered Molly by Mr. Combs? I remember I really can't tell you who gave me the money, but I had gotten a couple $1,000s, I guess, after we had sex. I took that Molly and then I became a totally different person. I went out into Times Square and I handed out $100 bills to every single person that I saw in front of me. When you say you became a totally different person, how did the Molly make you feel? It made me feel like a jackass that wanted to go out into the middle of Times Square and hand out $100 bills to every person that he saw. Can you describe the sensation of taking the Molly for us, please? I felt sick, like physically sick, like nauseous, but I also felt euphoric at the same time. That time that you took Molly from Mr. Combs, other than Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura, who else, if anyone, do you remember being at this encounter? There was one other time that I can remember. It may have been twice that they invited another guy to come and sorry, let's back up. Can we focus just on the time that he gave you the Molly? Oh, sure. On just the time he gave you the Molly. Okay. Who else was present, if anyone? There was another guy who told me he was an actual escort. Objection from Mr. Donaldson. It's not offered for the truth, Your Honor. The court is overruled. And what did you see that other guy doing? He was having sex with Cassie. Now, where did this encounter happen? At Cassie's house. So you can walk us through who all was at Cassie's apartment on this particular occasion. It was this other guy, myself, Cassie, and Sean Combs. And what did you see this other guy doing, having sex with Cassie? And what did you see Mr. Combs doing while this other guy was having sex with Cassie? She was actually giving him a blow job most of the time. And what do you remember happening during that particular sex act? The guy kept on looking at Sean in the face, Sean Combs in the face, and Mr. Combs turned to him and basically told him, "Look, motherfucker, you better stop looking at me in my face." And the guy got like real scared and he's like, "I'm not looking at you." And he's like, "You better not be fucking looking at me." And Cassie jumped off of the couch and like ran to the opposite side of the room. And the guy was just like saying profusely, "I'm not looking at you. I swear I'm not looking at you." Objection, Judge, from Mr. Donaldson. All right, let's get a fresh question. After Cassie ran away, what do you remember happening next? The guy told Mr. Combs, "I'm not looking at you." Mr. Combs said, "Okay, all right, we're here to have fun, not do anything else." And then he told Cassie to come back to the couch. And Cassie asked if they were absolutely positive that they are good now because she seemed like she was scared to go back to the couch. What did this other man look like? Black guy, kind of skinny. And what, if any, contact did you have with him outside of that night? We, at some point, I do not recollect how this happened, but we at some point exchanged phone numbers. And about how many times did you see each other in person outside of that night? We never saw each other out in person out. You mean like met up with each other? Yes. No, we had never done that. Did you speak over the phone occasionally? Objection from Mr. Donaldson. Overruled. We may have shared a couple of text messages. Do you remember his name? No. Have you spoken to him in the last 10 years? No, after Mr. Combs gave you the Molly, what else? Wait, it said no. After Mr. Combs gave you the Molly, what else did he give you that night? If it was him, cash, a couple $1,000s. Well, let me ask you this. Do you remember who gave you cash that night? I don't. Okay, but do you remember getting cash that night? I do. And then what did you do after getting the cash and taking the Molly? Like I said, I went into the middle of Times Square and I handed out every single dollar they gave me. Were there ever times when you arrived for one of these encounters with Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs and it appeared that you were not the first person who had been there? Yes. Can you tell us about that? Just times that I would come to the hotel room and there would be like towels on the floor that looked used and bottles of baby oil that were almost finished and Astroglide that was halfway used and it just looked like, like someone had been there before already. After that time that you took the Molly and gave the cash away in Times Square, did you see Miss Ventura or Mr. Combs in person again? Not to my knowledge, no. And why not? Because I, after a certain point, was no longer able to get hard when I was interacting with them. What were you paid for your sexual encounters with Miss Ventura and in front of Mr. Combs? What was I paid? Yes, in totality, each time. Oh, it could be anywhere from $700 to $6,000. And who do you remember handing you the cash? It was always Cassie, and I say that saying that I do not remember who handed me the money the last time. What, if any, comments do you remember Mr. Combs making to you about the money? I remember he came out of the room once and asked me and the gentleman if we had gotten our bread. Now, stepping back, when you first arrived at the Grand Mercy Park Hotel for that first encounter, did you expect to be paid for sex? No. Had you ever been paid for sex before that night? No. Have you ever been paid for sex since you last saw Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs? No. When you were able to sexually perform with Miss Ventura in front of Mr. Combs, what were you paid? Again, it could have ranged. You're saying when I couldn't? When you could. Okay, it could range anywhere from $700 to thousands of dollars. And when you could not sexually perform with Miss Ventura in front of Mr. Combs, what were you paid? Nothing, sometimes nothing. If there were times when you were not paid, why did you go back to more meetings with Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs? Well, I, for one, was not someone that was getting paid for sex. In my head, I was just as excited that I was in this world and, happy to be involved with people with such notoriety. I didn't care if I got paid one way or another. I never asked them for a single dollar. They gave that to me every time that I went to see them. So for me, it was just, this is just something that they do. They have that kind of money. They want to share it with me. I'm fine with that. What sexual performance issues did you experience when meeting with Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs? I could not get hard. You want the medical term for that? Erectile dysfunction. When was the first time you experienced that sexual performance issue? After the first time that I saw him hit her. Where were you when you first saw him hit her? At Cassie's house. And when you say you saw him hit her, who did you see hit whom? Sean Combs hit Cassie. Right before the violence started, where were you in Cassie's apartment? I was sitting on her couch, which was directly behind her. And where was Cassie? She was sitting at her computer, which was facing a wall directly in front of me. Where was Mr. Combs? He was in her bedroom, Cassie's bedroom. And what had happened just before this violence? I had sex with Cassie. What do you remember happening from the time that I had sex with her? Yes. Okay, well, I had sex with her. We finished doing what we were doing, and then they both went into the bedroom. She eventually came out and she got on her computer, and Mr. Combs was in her bedroom. Cassie was on her computer, and I heard him yell out, "Babe, come here." Let me pause you right there. Sure. You said you heard him yell out. Who did you hear him yell? Who did you hear yell out? I heard Mr. Combs yell out to Cassie, babe, come here. How did Cassie respond when Mr. Combs said, babe, come here? Cassie was on her computer and she said, hold on 1 second. I have my personal information out on my computer right now. What happened right after Cassie said, hold on 1 second? Mr. Combs came out of the room and I just saw a bottle fly past her and hit the wall. What kind of bottle? It looked like a liquor bottle. And then Mr. Combs walked over to her, to Cassie, grabbed her by her hair and started dragging her by her hair into her bedroom. And let me ask you, as Mr. Combs was dragging Cassie by her hair to her bedroom, what did you hear Mr. Combs saying? He wasn't saying anything while he was dragging her. She was yelling. What was she saying? She was screaming and Mr. Combs pulled her into the bedroom and I could hear him. What I could hear was sound like him slapping her. What else could you hear from the bedroom? She was screaming. What did you hear her saying? I'm sorry. And then Mr. Combs was basically saying, bitch, when I tell you to come here, you come now, not later. How did Miss Ventura compare in physical size to Mr. Combs? She's tiny compared to him. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I said she's tiny compared to him. How did you react to this violence? I was shocked. I came out of nowhere. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. Did you intervene? No. Why not? Because I knew that the chances that there were 4 or 5 big bodyguards in another room. Objection from Mr. Donaldson. The court sustained. Without speculating about what might have been going on outside of what you could see and what you could hear, can you explain to the jury why you didn't intervene when you heard Cassie crying and what sounded like smacks? I didn't know what to do. I was shocked. In my mind, it was going through my head that if I tried to do something, I might lose my life. Objection from Mr. Donaldson. Your Honor, I'm happy to explain why I think that's perfectly admissible. The court is overruled. And why didn't you call the police and report what you saw? Because again, without speculating, I'm not speculating. I'm just telling you what was in my mind and what I was feeling at the time. My thoughts were that this was someone with an unlimited power. Objection from Mr. Donaldson. The court overruled. My thoughts was that this was someone with unlimited power, and chances are that even if I did go to the police, that I might still end up losing my life. Mr. Donaldson. Objection. Move to strike. Ms. Comey. Your Honor, it's the same basis of admissibility as the prior explanation of his state of mind. The court denied. Motion is denied. What happened after the beating stopped? Sean Combs and Cassie came out of the room. Cassie was visibly very upset, did not look like she wanted to continue doing anything. But Mr. Combs asked, are you ready to continue now? And I couldn't do anything after that. What did you try to do? I don't know. I may have tried to act like everything was okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't really recall. How do you remember that interaction ending? I remember leaving. I do not remember them handing me money, and I probably would not have taken that anyway. Objection from Mr. Donaldson. Why did you return to me? The court. Hold on. The court. The jury should disregard the last sentence of the witness's answer. Ms. Coleman, you may continue. Why did you return to meet with Ms. Ventura and Mr. Combs again after you witnessed that violence? I've had conversations in between our interactions with Cassie, and I felt like I had started developing at least some kind of a friendship with her. I may have been speculating, but it was my way of being able to check on her and know that she was okay because she had asked me not to. Objection from Mr. Donaldson. The court. Well, the court. Let's stop right there, and Ms. Coleman, you can ask your next question. Let me ask you this. How many other times did you hear Mr. Combs yell at Ms. Ventura? Once after that. Where was this? At the Jumeirah Essex Hotel, a house hotel. Would you please describe the layout of the hotel room you were in? There's a door, the front door. When you walk into the front door, there's a bedroom right in front of that door. If you turn left, there's a hall, a foyer that goes down into a living room, common area, bathroom where the foyer is on the left-hand side. What do you remember happening right before you heard Mr. Combs yell? I think we had sex during this encounter. Objection. Never mind, withdrawn. Mr. Donaldson. And then after you had sex, what do you remember? Sean Combs and Cassie were in the bedroom for a while, and where were you when they were in the bedroom? I was in the living room. And what did you hear coming from the bedroom? Out of nowhere, I could hear Cassie yelling, I'm sorry. And then I could hear again that what sounded like she was being slapped or someone was being slapped around and slammed around the room. And I looked around the corner to where the foyer was, and I saw Mr. Combs walk out of the hotel altogether without clothes on. He might have had a towel on. And then Cassie came running into the living room, and she literally jumped into my lap, and she was shaking like literally, like her whole entire body was shaking like she was terrified. Do you remember what she was wearing? I don't know. Do you remember what she said to you when she jumped into your lap? I remember what I said to her. Well, first, let me ask, do you remember what she said to you or no? At what point? When she jumped into your lap? I don't know if she said anything to me when she jumped into my lap. I don't remember. What did you say to her? I asked her, why is she doing this? Why is she staying with this guy if he's... Objection from Mr. Donaldson. Your Honor, it's not offered for the truth. It's a question. The court. What's the ground of the objection? Mr. Donaldson, hearsay. The court overruled. Can you tell us again what you said to Cassie? I asked her why she was staying with this guy if he is hitting her and beating her like this. And I tried to explain to her that she was in real danger if she stayed with him. And she basically tried to convince me that it was okay. It's okay. I'm fine. I'll be okay. And I just kept trying to tell her that you're not okay and you need to get help. And what do you remember happening next? She and I were alone. This was the first time we were alone, and Cassie was not somebody that likes to kiss. Objection from Mr. Donaldson. The court overruled. During our interactions, Cassie was not a kisser, but in this instance, she just started making out with me, and we ended up getting into it. But the fact that I was alone with her this time, I had no problem getting hard. And right when we were actually about to start having sex, I realized that Mr. Combs had re-entered the room, and he was sort of sneaking around the corner watching us. And once he realized that we could see him, he came into the room and basically was saying that, yeah, that he liked that. He liked that we were getting along in that way. And what do you remember happening next? I think the second that he came back into the room, I was done again. I couldn't continue. Why didn't you go to the police after this incident? I told you again, I was concerned for my life by this point. He had taken my ID and taken a picture of it, and I felt threatened by what he said to me, and I felt that at the very least, I could try to get her to realize that she needed to leave and maybe try to help her that way. But I felt like maybe the police, Sean Combs might have someone within the police department. Objection from Mr. Donaldson. The court, that's sustained. Ms. Comey. Just after the last sentence, Your Honor. Mr. Donaldson, move to strike all. The court, well, the objection was not articulated, but I am sustaining the objection and instructing the jury not to consider the last portion of the witness's answer. Why didn't you go into the bedroom to intervene when you heard Cassie crying and saying, I'm sorry, and what sounded like a beating? Well, I had no idea if I would have been met with a gun or... Objection from Mr. Donaldson. Without speculating about what might have happened, can you just generally explain why you didn't go into that bedroom? Because my life was at risk. If. Objection from Mr. Donaldson. I did so. Objection. The court, that's overruled. Ms. Comey, one moment, Your Honor. No further questions. The court, all right. Mr. Donaldson, can we take a 2-minute break, Judge, please? The court, yes, I was going to suggest that. Can you give us, before we take our break, can you give us just a general, how much time do you anticipate your cross-examination taking? And I'm not holding you to anything. I'm just trying to get a sense of the clock, Mr. Donaldson. We will go until the end of the day. The court. Okay, all right. Mr. Donaldson, at a minimum. The court. Good, okay. So we're going to take a 10-minute recess just so everyone can stretch their legs, and we will be back at 4:20. All rise for the jury.